Welcome to the AI for Career Success podcast by Curt Robbins, where we help you get smarter than your competition. This is episode 134. I'm Fred, and I'm joined by Daphne.
And hello to you, the listener. We're really excited to get into some fascinating new data today.
Absolutely. This one was actually suggested by our producer, Curt Robbins, and it tackles, I think, the biggest question in the workplace right now.
Which is?
How do people really feel about AI? Beyond the headlines, beyond the hype, what's actually happening on the ground?
Right. And for that, we are pulling from a major new report. It was released by Anthropic on December 4th, 2025.
Okay.
It's titled, Introducing Anthropic Interviewer, What 12,250 Professionals Told Us About Working with AI. And it was led by Kunal Handa and a whole team of authors.
And the way they gathered this data is pretty remarkable, isn't it? It's not your standard survey.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
They use an AI tool they built called the Anthropic Interviewer. It's powered by Claude, their model, and it conducted 12,250 really detailed, sort of personalized interviews.
With who specifically?
They broke it down into three main groups: the general workforce, creatives, and scientists.
So you get this huge, rich snapshot of how people are feeling, not just what they're clicking.
Exactly. And the big high-level insight, it kind of flips the whole mainstream narrative on its head.
Which is that everyone's terrified.
Right. But despite all the anxiety we hear about, the overall sentiment across the board in their work was actually overwhelmingly positive.
That's the paradox right there. Positive feelings, but we know the anxiety is real. So let's start with that first group, the general workforce.
Yeah.
Because that optimism it's really palpable in the data.
It really is. I mean, the numbers are huge. 86% reported that AI saves them time.
86%.
And 65% said they were satisfied with AI's role in their jobs. The productivity bump is, it's real.
But what I found most interesting wasn't just about speed. It was about their identity.
What do you mean?
They want to get rid of the boring stuff, the administrative tasks, and delegate that to AI so they can focus on the work that actually, defines who they are as a professional.
That's perfectly captured in one of the quotes, actually. There was a pastor who said, AI frees up so much admin time that it lets them be with the people.
So it's a shift from being a bureaucrat back to being a practitioner.
Exactly. But we can't ignore the worry. You mentioned it. Over half, 55%, did express anxiety about the long-term impact.
So if they're so happy with it now, why the worry?
Because the anxiety is driving them to adapt, not just freeze. The report shows a quarter of them, 25%, are actively changing their roles. Another 25% are setting clear boundaries on how they use AI.
They're planning ahead.
They are. There was even an interpreter who saw the writing on the wall and was already preparing to move into a completely different trade.
That's proactive. But there's another hurdle, a social one. Nearly 7 in 69% mentioned a social stigma around using AI. That's a huge number.
It's massive, and it points to a big cultural lag in the workplace. I mean, think about it. If you have a tool that makes you more productive, but you feel like you have to hide it, something's broken.
The report quoted a salesperson who said, colleagues feel slighted if they get an email that's clearly AI generated. They think the sender is being too lazy.
And that leads right into maybe the biggest finding of the whole report, this gap between augmentation and automation.
Right. People are kind of lying to themselves about how they're using it.
They are. When asked, 65% of people describe their use as augmentative, collaborative, I'm in control.
But that's not what the actual data showed, is it?
Not at all. Anthropic looked at the actual conversation logs with Claude, and the reality was a nearly even split. 47% augmentation and 49% automation.
So we say we're collaborating, but we're actually automating almost half the time. What does that gap even mean? Are we just aspiring to be more involved than we are?
That's the question. Or maybe the human part, the editing, the refining, isn't captured in the log, so it looks automated even when it's not. It's a real gray area.
It seems like no matter what you call it, people are becoming managers of AI output, not the primary producers.
That is the strategic shift. Okay, let's pivot to the creatives because their data is just a spectacular paradox.
How so?
They are getting the absolute biggest productivity wins.
Okay.
While also having the highest levels of, existential fear.
The GANs are that big?
Staggering. 97% of creatives said AI saved them time, and nearly 70% said it increased the quality of their work.
Can you give an example?
Sure. A web content writer went from writing 2,000 words a day to over 5,000. A photographer cut their editing time on a project from 12 weeks down to just 3.
That is an earthquake in that industry.
Yeah.
But Those gains have to be coming from somewhere.
And that's the fear. They know it. The report quotes a creative director who says, "I fully understand that my gain is another creative's loss." They don't need to hire a product photographer anymore.
And we heard from a voice actor too, right?
Yes, who said, certain sectors of voice acting have essentially died due to the rise of AI, specifically mentioning industrial voice work.
So their professional identity is just under attack.
Yeah.
They want control, but the tool is too good and too fast to ignore.
Right. All of them said they wanted to maintain control, but many admitted that line is getting blurry. There was an artist who confessed, 60% AI, 40% my ideas. The human is becoming the editor, not the originator.
And you see that tension in the emotional data.
You do. You have game developers and visual artists who report high satisfaction because of the speed, but it's paired, paradoxically, with this massive worry about their future.
So they love the tool but don't trust where it's taking their careers.
Exactly. They are running toward the efficiency, but they know it might just burn down the whole house.
Let's take a brief break for a special message from our producer, Curt Robbins.
Hi, this is Curt Robbins. First, thanks for listening. I truly appreciate your support. I want to let you know that I'm currently accepting new clients. My rates are affordable, and I have more than 25 years of experience working for enterprise companies like Microsoft, Northrop Grumman, Oracle, PNC Bank, FedEx, USAA, and Wells Fargo, among many others. If you want to improve your IT documentation and communications, hire me. I deliver fast, know how to use AI to improve efficiency and accuracy, and love going the extra mile to satisfy my clients. Thank you for subscribing and listening. Back to you, Daphne and Fred.
Welcome back to the AI for Career Success podcast.
Okay, so before the break, we covered the paradox facing creatives and the anxieties of the general workforce. Now let's talk about that third group, scientists.
And for them, the issue isn't really economic fear, it's something much more fundamental.
It all comes down to trust, reliability. In fact, trust concerns were the #1 barrier in almost 80% of their interviews.
So they're being very careful about where they use it.
Extremely selective. They'll use it for things like writing up manuscripts, literature reviews, debugging code.
Tasks where you can spot an error pretty easily.
Exactly. What they are not using it for is core research. Things like generating a new hypothesis or designing an experiment. The risk is just too high.
And that gets to the verification problem. If you have to double-check everything the AI does, it's not really saving you time.
That's the headache. An information security researcher basically said it defeats the purpose of having the agent do this work in the first place.
And they seem more aware of the subtle problems, too, like the AI being too agreeable.
Yes, a chemical engineer brought up sycophancy, the idea that the AI just kind of panders to you, changing its answers based on how you phrase a question. For science, that's a non-starter.
But despite all that frustration with the current tech, they aren't worried about their jobs.
Not at all. Job security worry was very low. They feel their roles depend on what they call tacit knowledge, things AI just can't get.
That's the stuff that isn't written down anywhere.
Precisely. There was a great anecdote from a microbiologist who works with a bacterial strain where they have to make decisions based on subtle changes in cell colors.
Things you just have to see to understand.
Right. And that's why, even with the current limits, they are still optimistic. A huge 91% of scientists want more AI assistance.
But they want a partner, not just an assistant.
That's the vision.
Yeah.
One scientist put it perfectly. I would love an AI which could feel like a valuable research partner that could bring something new to the table.
It's about collaborative discovery, not just summarizing what's already known.
So when you look at all three groups, the general workforce, the creatives, the scientists, they are all boosting productivity, but they're all wrestling with these very human challenges.
Social stigma, economic anxiety, and this new critical need for human oversight in every single workflow.
And the vision for the future seems pretty clear across the board. Automate the routine work.
So humans can shift to being supervisors. We manage the output, we personalize the interaction, we provide that final judgment call.
Which brings us right back to that big critical finding, the augmentation-automation gap. And this is the thought we want to leave with you.
Okay.
The general workforce and scientists aren't too worried about being displaced. They believe they'll be the ones managing these new systems.
Right, but if we think we're collaborating 65% of the time, when the data shows we're actually automating almost 50% of the time, are we really being honest about our role?
If we're automating more than we admit, are we already handing over cognitive control to systems we don't fully trust yet?
That gap between what we think we're doing and what we're actually doing. That might be the single most important thing that defines your career success from here on out.
It's the difference between being in control of the tool and just being an editor for whatever the tool spits out.
Thank you for listening to the AI for Career Success podcast from Curt Robbins, where we help you get smarter than your competition. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share. We'll see you next time.